Hello everybody. Sometimes when I start a video, it doesn't record exactly when I click record, and that is responsible for the little stutter and skip that occurred at the beginning of this video that this disclaimer seeks to explain. It's very late, yet nevertheless, I have some thoughts I'd like to share. I've been thinking about a lot of personal stuff that I'm not really going to share in this video, but I can share some things. Namely, you know, it has seemed like the last 10 years, especially in the United States, have been very chaotic and destructive, and the hysteria has been so great that I think it's really made it difficult for people to transcend the common condition. Um, I don't know what it is about this era where there's just a ton of distrust and anger. I've tried my hardest. Like, I'm not going to go into the details of my life, but I'm at a point now where I have not a ton of space, but a decent amount of space, like more decent than I've previously had in my life in periods where things have been complete shit. But it's a strange thing that that's so difficult to acquire. And then I've been thinking about how much like intellectual effort it has taken to even reach a position where I feel like I can handle myself, or I can that I have the words to describe what it is I even want. When people are young, they have dreams. They have certain things that they would like to do. And typically, if you have a dream, it's really good to get started early when you're young. It seems there's the political component that I described. There's also just the general technological, cultural component of trash media flooding the zone, which means that, for example, let me just use a very practical example. There was an indie golden age in music. Now we're changing subjects, but there was an indie golden age in music in the early 2000s. And I almost look back at that time, and I wasn't really like conscious during that period or anything like that. But when I think about that period, having learned about it, having listened to the music all through my life, I think, goodness gracious, that is rather extraordinary. That this country worked in such a way where it could just produce that, it could facilitate that. And then what happened? A number of things happened. Obviously, politics changed, the nation got hysterical. Social media changed the economics, and streaming changed the economics behind the viability of a musical career. But it's like something deeper than that, where again, I'm using one particular example in this country that's a recent one, but I genuinely believe you need space and solitude, and you need to not get like distracted if you want to make something or distinguish yourself in some manner. Nietzsche speaks of this, and I've actually read Nietzsche, so I can tell you. He speaks of, in the use and disuse of history, a horizon around culture that's necessary for action and for life. You need you can't get lost in everything. When culture or when people are just flooded with things from everywhere, and ideas and comparisons between time periods, and where there's seemingly just a swamp of information and no structure, no undergirding structure for what is and what culture is that is contained in a horizon, right? You don't get developed art, it seems, and other things according to Nietzsche, but it seems like art especially entails a separation from the manifold, and in this era of the normalization of frenzied internet stuff, frenzied internet, the frenzied internet spigot that's just shooting all kinds of distracting information. It just knocks the wind out of people, and it means that they can't just pick something to be about and to fixate on and to polish and develop. They can't do that because it's just a constant flood. And then if you're young, the culture, like the friendships you'll build and the culture of socializing and whatnot, is typically predicated off of being subjected to this torrent, this flood of stuff that doesn't give you space. And that's so crazy. If you're in an institution, you're in school, you've got all these people kind of imprinting and pressing upon and screwing up the solitude that is necessary for self-discovery and for creation of stuff. Sorry to use stuff so much, but I think that makes a lot of sense, frankly. It just seems like now there's less space than ever. It's not even like, you can be an adult who's got your own thing going, and it still is so difficult to find space. And the flood of information and entertainment and junk is seemingly endless, to the point where it doesn't show any signs that this media apparatus and this culture will ever exhaust itself through a lack of supply. It can keep on going and going and going and going and going and going. And they'll build a Dyson sphere around the sun, and they'll keep the machinery and the technology going forever and ever and ever and ever. So if you want to distinguish or separate yourself from the rest and do the things that are in your heart, that you know yourself to be capable of, whatever your talents are, if you've ever wondered, man, there are aspects about myself I could develop into something meaningful and beneficial, you really have to make a decision. You have to have some inward philosophy that makes you mindful of the things that stand in the way of that necessary space. But goodness gracious, I would like it if culture were more regularly designed in such a manner as to leave room for the things that aren't, oppressive and loud and just shitting up everything. We're in an era where one political force, I think, that people didn't really speak in this manner. Maybe it's because I was a kid, but when I was a small child, you hear now invocations of the West. You hear invocations of the greatness of the West and things like that. That's always been around, but it's like we've got young people now speak about these things. I'm going to ignore the really stupid unserious memes or whatever. I don't even pay attention to that stuff. So we're not discussing that. But just the West itself, a revived interest in the West and what it is actually kind of an opportune thing for people who do care about art especially. And we'll say the versatility of our culture and the depth of our culture. The West has been distinguished through its sensitivity to the natural world, through science, its sensitivity to the nature of God, through theology, and the sensitivity to the nature of truth, through philosophy, and the sensitivity to aesthetics, through art. This is like language that is not typically spoken of in the United States. There's now an opportunity to take that interest in the West, in Western identity, whatever it is, and to kind of like move it in the sort of thoughtful directions that are responsible for all the beautiful cities. Not all of them, but many of the beautiful cities. All the beautiful cities in Europe, and sure, and in America too. To the extent that we have beautiful architecture. It's not nearly at the scale of Europe in any sense. But all that stuff, there's these aesthetics that people bring up and whatnot, and it's important to separate that stuff from the kind of sublunary and kind of trashy, purely political consciousness. Just rediscover the wellspring of culture in the West, and doing that is like, a unique experience. One book that I really recommend to people, read Human All Too Human by Nietzsche. Take your time with it. Just read it. It's an important book if you want to understand Nietzsche's thought. I think a lot of people who have a cursory and superficial understanding of Nietzsche would benefit from. There's a goddamn fly in here. Can you believe this? It's like I'm living in a zoo. It's actually just because it's the summer. God, whatever. All right. Anyways, yeah, Human All Too Human is a essential sort of record of his the transition from his early thought to his mature works, which are filled with all kinds of big, meaty claims. These goddamn flies, just ignore it. These big, meaty claims that he makes in his later works that are, typically a source of so much provocation. Reading Human All Too Human is helpful for understanding why he moved in this direction and what he actually meant. And there's a lot of thoughts in there that are extremely sensitive to the nature of culture and art and mankind's role in the world and what it means to be a free spirit, a free human being. And I feel like if we actually took the world seriously and the culture that we have inherited seriously, life would actually be very pleasant. It need not be this very vulgar, destructive screaming match that has composed our politics recently. Once again, I mean, I would like it to be the case where plenty of people across the United States, even if they're people who would be, whether frankly, if they're somebody whose instincts are like more leftist or if their instincts are more rightist, they can be, they understand why it's essential to be sensitive about culture and art. Like I feel like the very vapid understanding of art is like, just lefties and liberals like care about this stuff and feeling and sensitivity, which I don't actually think that's true. But now more than ever, we have to really discard that. The people on the right should be caring about art as well, and people who don't fit on either side or in these tribal camps as they manifest at present in a contemporary context should also recognize this. We should really move past this incuriosity about human expression, because that's not a source of greatness. That's a source of regression. I wouldn't even call it barbaric. You could if you wanted to. It's just plain stupid. It's just plain stupid. Even barbarians, I think, are like more in touch with their nerves and their feeling and their Now I'm going to sound like Nietzsche again, but the world was kind of animated and beautiful and mystical to even a pagan savage, Germanic destroyer of Rome. So it's just silly. It's a silly modern thing to have zero interest in art. I don't even think the people who there's talk about brutalism and the oppressive nature of brutalism. Brutalism was designed to appeal to supposedly the aesthetic inclinations of the proletariat, the workers. This was supposedly architecture that celebrated them and what was in reach for them, rather than rather than the lofty sort of like neoclassical architecture that was considered bourgeois for some reason. Fair enough, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't seem like now the people who love brutalism or whatever don't seem to have. It's not like the proletariat likes that stuff. Anyways, we can move past some of these weird like secondary effects of. I don't want to impute it all to postmodern culture or something. It's actually not fair if I do that. But I don't know I don't understand. Maybe this. I don't know where this dynamic of art is for suckers or something ever. I don't know where that came from or why that's even like a It's just retarded. It's really retarded. It's fucking stupid. Hopefully we move past that. So anybody who, it's like, let's cultivate, let's make space, okay? Let's make space. Let's make space. Let's make space for aesthetics, for art, for weird, strange people to make creative stuff that actually makes life bearable. It can be intuitive and erratic, okay? Primal drums, people just feeling things. It can also be heavily disciplined. It can be Dionysian, it can be Apollonian, it can be highly disciplined art, rigorous philosophical treatise. We can have all that. I hate this world of I don't know, just we have all these personalities, broadcasting their takes all over the world, and it's not all terrible, but it's like we gotta, there's other stuff in life, people. There just is more to life than commentary, politics, business, and tech, and crypto scams and gambling. And then there's also more to life than like being a militant communist. We can do other stuff. That's my point. Read Nietzsche. Read Human All Too Human. Save yourself, people. Save yourself. Let's fix this mess we're in. The boomers are going to be dying soon. They're going to be rotting away in the retirement homes. Sorry, it's just true. We don't have to inherit or keep this reduced, sloppy culture going. We can do something else. We really can. It's on us. Or is it going to be that the people who, I've ranted about the passive cell phone slaves, are they going to inherit the earth? Are they going to just the trash, the junk that the generations prior, before the matrix, the zoo that they built for these kids, is that going to be our society, our civilization? Is that going to be it? Or is it going to be thoughtful again? Is it going to be expansive? Is it going to be rich and wanting to absorb the world and all of its mysteries? What are we going to do, people? Now's the time where we can actually think about it and do something original. So break free from these shallow dichotomies. Don't be a lackey for somebody who doesn't deserve your submission. Okay, we need to start bringing everything up. We need to make things better, and and if we do that, and if there's more people doing it, I can only speak for myself. I know I'll be more motivated. I know I'll be less lazy, indolent, passive, lying around going, oh, fuck everything. Everything's screwed up. Everything's ruined. We can't do that anymore. We can't just sit and stare at our screens. We cannot do this. It's going to be so hard because we're going to have to find ways of liking each other and interfacing with each other and doing things that make society great, lifting each other up, working on collective and shared projects. New magazines, new bands, new businesses, new documentaries, a whole range of things. Okay? We have to, but we got to break away from all the crappy ideas that are preventing us from being far more interesting. Okay? And by the way, just as a note, avoid stuff that I don't want to say. There's like a really stupid internet slang term I could use that I won't use. Don't look at stuff that stresses you out, that makes your temple flare. Don't look at stuff that makes you hate other people. Just try your best. I mean, really, if you're going to hate somebody, if you're going to be really pissed off at just there's a lot of different kinds of people out there who can be nasty. It's way better, at least, if that's like, despite the fact that you're trying to avoid the things that are trying to get a rise out of you and trying to make you hate people. I've been in contexts where I've literally just been around people who were terrible and I really didn't like them. And it made me misanthropic. Then I've been in contexts where it was far more neutral. And I made the effort to just try to, don't get Don't keep the those habits of thought going when you don't need to. Just avoid it. That's one stuff. That's one other point I'll make. Probably the last point. Maybe we'll see where I have all the time in the world, frankly, but there's a lot of ideas that are grabbing people today that they're going to hold on to their whole lives, because these are not people who stop and reflect and redesign their life. There's too many people out there who don't do this. So if they're getting, there's a risk that people are getting hooked up into some ideas that are not going to take them anywhere good. Okay, and you don't want to be, in your your midlife, where you've just been filled with someone else's venom and shit. You don't want that. Life is too short for that. This is what I'm saying, guys. There's so much culture out there that is brilliant that if you absorb it and contemplate it and think about it, it will, when you reach that point in your midlife, your inner world and your outer world will be so much better. But you got to avoid the slop and the junk out there. You really do. Because it's just going to turn everything into shit. And I guarantee you, by the way, there's a lot of ideologies that people are adopting that they think they can, absorb, and then they're going to, I don't know, take over the world or something. There's very smart people out there who know what they're doing. And, it's not like for the elites, everything is going perfect for them, but they stand a chance at surviving whatever, happens more than you do. Just be mindful of that. There's an outlook I've had, or that I've seen in people who are closer to that world, that they regard a lot of the provocative, vulgar politics happening at the ground level as not even worth their time. It's like, oh, these are crazy people who do crazy shit. Just ignore them because we can afford to, and we have our own world that we're erecting that's inaccessible mostly and happening out of view of everyone else. So you with that in mind, I think if you have a critical, thought in your brain, you should be able to discern what are ideas that I shouldn't associate with and what are ideas that I should. And I understand if you're young, especially, and you're constantly online and you're locked into these algorithmic feeds, you're getting propaganda, without end. And it's unfair, frankly, that it's screwing you up. And it takes way too much effort to separate from it. I know, in my personal story, it's taken a shit ton of crazy stuff to get my life together. But I'm telling you guys, do your best. And as I've said, read. Just spend your time reading. I know it's it sucks sometimes to be, on your on your own. Okay, and I've talked about this before. The quality of life for young people, the way we're living, the stuff that we're supposed to be doing to socialize just isn't there. And it's because of this backdrop that we're trying to build something on top of is full of holes and it's rotten. And that's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair. And, but it's only going to be better for, we have to think in this way. It's only going to be better for posterity if we do something, if we start making choices, and if we start becoming the people who can, save who we were when we were children, okay, in such a manner that the world that's left for the children of the future is far better, far more fulfilling, and we're not going to get there. You're not going to get there with the shit that fucking is spewed online. You're not going to get there. You know that. You can see these idiots, and you know that they don't have anything to offer. You know that. You should know that. I think you know that. And it's sick, frankly, that it looks like, these people are so formidable, these idiots who control, the podcast space and the propaganda mill. It sucks. It just sucks. We'll get past it. One day we'll look back at all of this time and we'll know that it stank, and we'll be so grateful to be where we will be. What it will feel like, looking down on, seeing one's humble origins. Look at the filth. Look at the primordial soup, the pond scum that we came out of. Look at that. Isn't it better to be enlightened and to know more and to feel more, to be better? Isn't that good? All right. Boy, this was a long one, wasn't it? But it was interesting. I didn't know I would say all that stuff. All right. Have a good night.